Can anyone guess what I'm doing? I'm just curious if anyone can work out what I'm up to. Now, I'm a little bit worried that Kerry, my wife, is following me around near camera shops. So I'm just a little bit worried that she might think I'm going to get the 135 G Master. So I'm thinking I might start using disguises. What do you think? Does this work? I'm just curious, because if you think I can get away with it, this is the way it's going to be. And I'm going to, next time I go into the camera store, particularly once the 135 G Master is available, do you think I'll get away with looking like this? Is this enough, or do I need to something else? Because I want to go stealth, and then at least I'll get a month before Kerry sees the credit card bill before I'm going to cop it. So I'm just wondering, is this enough? So let me know in the chat, guys, what you think, whether you think... I haven't even started drinking my coffee yet. Just wait till I start drinking that. I'm going to log over to the chat. Hang on. I can't see a thing because I'm blind. I need to go like this. Hang on. Oh, that's much better. Hang on. That is so much better. This is almost like tree autofocus happening now. Do you think I'll get away with it now if I walk around like this? Oh, boy. Oh, I'm going to bring it over to the live chat. Let's see who's in here. Someone's saying I'd add a hat. Hang on a minute, guys. I've got to pour my coffee. It's another frothy dark coffee again. So let me pour this, and I'm going to see if you think that disguise was enough for when I buy the G Master. Oh dear, I might just push this bench up a little bit. So let's see who's in here anyway. Oslo's in here. Haz says, yeah, lucky I'm off today, so we'll be watching. That's good, Haz. Jamie says, hi all. 42 Pros. Now we are in pre-show, guys, so let me just put that up so everyone knows. 42 Pro says, we have to be pure geek to be in the chat this early. I know people were in there about half an hour before. Images says, is that SP lens on the right? And that's a 135, I know that much. I just said to everyone I'm getting coffee. Jamie says, imagine how good the coffee will look through that nice 135. Aaron said, David Rocks. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, it's a bit hot. What, the audio? Or the, I know it's so hot today, guys. It's actually, what is it now? It's 36 degrees. Now, let me make sure I've got my phone on silent today because I don't want it to ring. Oh, see, there goes Siri now. I always forget to turn this stuff off. So let me turn that off. Let me turn the volume down here so that this is not going to annoy us. And then let me grab my watch and stop Siri on that as well. It's all these things you've got to turn off because you keep getting annoyed. Yeah, it's extremely hot today. I've got a wedding tomorrow as well. It's 36 degrees. I don't know what that is. It's probably, well, it'll be well over 100, I think, Fahrenheit. And I'm doing a wedding tomorrow. So I'm going to melt, I think, because it's going to be even hotter tomorrow. So that's going to be a test for my camera gear, that's for sure. Dion saying, yeah, it's a bit hot. Yeah, g'day, Dion. Tom's saying, hi, David. Also said, the wifey gave you a black eye for buying the A6 400. I should have worn that the day after I bought that, shouldn't I? Aaron's just laughing. Haz says, hello, everyone. Dion says, echo and lag. Is that echoing? Oh, hang on. Let me check. So it's still lagging. YouTube apparently has been having issues. Now, there shouldn't be any echo, though, because I've only got one microphone on. Let me just check this one. Yeah, I've only got one audio on, so I don't know why it'd be lagging. YouTube is having issues. I noticed a number of people said this morning that it dropped out. Now, last night's show with Aaron dropped out as well. And I watched a bit of Panda this morning, and he was having really bad lagging. And I noticed a couple of other people were talking about lagging bad today too. So I think YouTube's having some issues. So let me know how the audio is for all of you guys. I can't do anything about the lagging though, unfortunately. It's saying my health is good. So I don't know. It's certainly a YouTube thing. Echo and lag, yeah, that's what Chris says. Hello, David from Los Angeles with the corona. G'day, Chris. Dree Day says hello. Mark says, sure, Elton. Some people used to say I look like Elton John, particularly with glasses like that. It's up to no good. Yep. Mark says, going stealth. Yep, that's me. I'm going to go stealth. It's called the 135 G Master Stealth look. Get a tattooed fat suit. Oh, I love it. I think I need to be a bit higher with this thing. 36 is like 97, yeah, so we're not quite 100. 42 Pro says, I'll get the 135 GM. Memory ready for when you get back to the camera shop. Tim said, you'll have to finish the day tomorrow with a few cold... Oh, I will be, don't you worry about that. We're very lucky here in Australia that they do supply... well, not all brides do, but I make sure it's in the contract that I have food and beverages included. So Dion's saying, have I got anything else open? Let me have a look and just see. So let me put that quiet and we'll see if that fixes that, Dion. Let me put that on there and turn that off. Let's see if that fixes it. So I've muted everything that's on there. So let me know if that works, Dion. Aaron's saying the audio is perfect. G'day, Ben. How you going? Peter says 96.8. It'll be hotter where I'm going tomorrow, I can tell you that much. I'm going, if you looked at my A6400 shoot review, that's where I'm going tomorrow to do the wedding. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a beautiful location. Kevin said, so what about the new Tamron 17 to 28? Well, Kevin, I did discuss that last week, but Tamron Australia have said that they're going to give me a version of that lens. They're not going to give it to me, but they'll give me one to loan to do a review of. But I'm not sure when they'll have them here. I mean, you can't even get them at WWPI. I think it's just locked in a cupboard at the moment. So I've got to wait for them to start giving them, well, bringing them into Australia and everywhere else, the review units. So I'm not sure when it will be, but they'll certainly contact me when it's available, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be reviewing it for you straight away. So stay tuned for that. They're still saying released around the middle of the year. So yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. Now it is 1:30, so let me just turn on the show and we'll start the show, and then I'll continue on from here for a second. G'day everyone, beautiful hot day in Melbourne today, nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees we are here now Celsius. It's going to be like this tomorrow when we do a wedding as well. I should do a test of the A6400 and see if I can overheat it. It'll be interesting to see if it could stand that heat. That really would be interesting. But I'm really looking forward to it. If you checked out my A6400 review, that's where I'm doing my wedding tomorrow, so I'm so excited about it. I love shooting in those locations. It's just gorgeous up there, so I can't wait to do that. You just have to get over the heat, unfortunately. But that's what you do in summer in Australia. There's no way of getting around it. Hopefully, the audio seems a bit hot too, actually. Hopefully, I won't be dropping out today. Yesterday, it dropped out with Aaron's show, the Behind the Photo show. I checked my network straight after that, and I was still getting 100 megabits download, or almost 100 megabits download, and 30 up. So it's a YouTube problem. Now, I know a few people were saying this morning that they were having really bad issues with lagging and things like that. So if it does happen, guys, I think there's a problem down in YouTube land. So there's nothing that I can do about that. So hopefully it won't happen again. But if it does, there's nothing I can do about it. Kevin was asking about the new Tamron, the 17 to 28. I was saying, if you're just tuning in now, that Tamron Australia have said they were going to give me a review unit. I just have to wait for that to come into the country. I think even WWPI at the moment, you can't physically get to touch it. It's inside a cabinet. So they haven't got any review units out yet, so I've got to wait for that. Eventually it will come out. And once I do, I'm sure Tamron Australia will contact me and I'll get a review unit and I'll be able to do a review for you. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited about it as well. The lens apparently is going to be released sometime mid-year. So, you know, we may not get review units out of that until, say, May, June. I don't know. But I'll certainly keep you updated on that because I'm excited about trying it out as well. I'm more excited about a 70 to 200 though, which I'm sure is going to come sometime this year. I haven't got any information on that. but I'm hoping that's the case, that it'll be sometime this year. I am drinking malty coffee. If anyone's wondering what I'm drinking, it's nice and frothy. Dana says you haven't got any downvotes yet, and I'm sure they'll come. Guys, if you can give me upvotes, please do give me likes, because it does make a difference to me, particularly because it gets other people to view the channel. Remember, I am completely unsponsored, so any help that you guys can give me, I'll really appreciate. Tim is saying, when are you getting that Tamron? Like I just said, I'm not sure yet. I've got a feeling it may be around that May-ish area, somewhere like that. It could be earlier, I don't know. Jean said, might be a good idea to get batch of prepaid Visa cards over time so your wife won't see the lens purchase. I'm going to talk about the 135 in a minute. I'm going to be in so much trouble if I do buy that, though. Richard said, hi, David. Troy said, audio is good, but where's my beer? Well, I'm drinking, well, a coffee. Julian says, hi. Peter says, no echo. Ben's saying audio is fine as well. Jamie says the audio is fine as well, so that's all good. Seems to all be working now. Enough about cameras. What are you drinking? Well, it it starts with G, but it starts with... It's an Irish coffee. Let me say that much to you. Vince said 14 1.4. Ooh. Or is it 1.8? What lens is that you're talking about, Vince? Just curious to know. James said, David, hello from Phoenix. Shaku said, it's hot here in Minnesota for polar bears. Scott said, hello from Nashville. Dion said, so I can walk into a cafe bar and ask for a multi coffee. Well, it's not multi, it's multi. But I'm not sure what you'll get. You won't get this from a coffee shop, though. Let me put it that way to you. Well, I don't think, unless it's a licensed coffee shop. Mobile says, I can't wait for the 5 update. Oh, neither can I. Look, the more I use the A6400, I am dying to get that A9 update. As soon as it comes out, I'll do a review for you guys. But yeah, I'm so excited about it. It really is going to make that camera like new again. Remember, that's still my favourite camera. I adore that camera. And in fact, I'll be using it as my main camera tomorrow. Kerry will probably shoot with the A7 III. I'll probably shoot with the A9 and the A7R too. And I'll do a few images just to test with the A6400, just to see how it goes, so I can show you guys how it actually performs in that sort of scenario. But I'll certainly be shooting with my A9 at the same time. But yeah, that should be coming out any time now, though. I mean, we're nearly into March. Hopefully it's not the end of March, though. I'm hoping that's the case. Mobile says, hi, a photo can be extracted internally from 4K video recorded on a Sony a6400. I'm not sure, Jimmy. You can do it through the software, though. You can do it through Final Cut, for instance, if you want to go that way. I've never done it on the Sony side, so I can't talk about that. And really, unless you're doing sort of 4K video and you can up the shutter speed, I wouldn't be doing it anyway. But yes, I used to do it on the G5 though, the GH5. I did that a couple of times to test it. It was okay, but it's certainly going to come later on when you get higher bit rates, that's for sure. A donation already. Kevin, thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate that. I should bring this back so you can see what I'm talking about. So Kevin just made a donation. Thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate that. What else are we up to before we start to go to news stories? Peter said, used the Sigma Art 85 on the MC11 yesterday at a model shoot of ours. I was using the Canon 70-200 as well. The 85 is way better in AF. The 70-200 is okay when you're close to your subject. Is that stinks or what you're saying? Now, this is the interesting thing. I have got an MC11. I just put it down somewhere and I don't know where I've put it. But I have got the MC11 and I'm dying to try it out. So it was the 85. What aperture was that, Peter? Was it the 1.2 or was it a 1.8 or 1.4? I'm just curious to know what aperture that was because I'm dying to try the Canon 85 1.2. It's interesting that you're saying the 70 to 200 is not working that well. Also, what camera were you using as well for that? I'll be curious to know that as well. So let me know a bit later, Peter. I got another donation. Robert! People, you guys are on fire. Thank you so much, Robert. Really appreciate that. Let's have a look. Barry saying g'day. Rick saying hello. Altric saying, I need that firmware like yesterday. I know you do, Altric. You've got 2 of them. Like I said, from what I've seen, if you base it on what the A6400 is giving me, and the A9 is going to be that much quicker than that due to the sensor that's on there, you know, it's 60 frames per second of AF calculation with that sensor. It's going to be groundbreaking, I think, with the A9. It really is. I mean, I've found the A6400 is really, really sticky, and the lock-on AF is fantastic. So if I can get that, and I'm sure it's going to go to a new level with the A9, I just can't wait to get it. In fact, I do think that if you've got the money and you can get a decent second-hand one, A9, or you get these promotions that come up where you get a decent amount of money off, I'd jump on board and get the A9 for sure with that new upgrade. Thanks, Robert, so much. Thanks, Kevin, too, for that donation. Arden says, I'm glad I don't have to ask anyone to spend the money I make. No need to hide from myself. Well, I do that for my business. If I'm sick, I phone myself up and tell myself off that I'm taking a day off. Dion said, Clearance said the Metabones V is better than the MC11 on his Canon glass. Interesting. Robert said, thanks for all the time you take to gather and distribute information. Thank you so much, Robert. That's great. And that's it. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to a wedding tomorrow. That's why I've had to do the usual Friday show today. A day early, because I'm not going to be available at all tomorrow due to the wedding unless I find time to shoot something or show a bit of live stuff that's going on. Apart from that, obviously, I'll be back, I think, Sunday, so I may get time on Sunday to do some with you guys as well. Haas says, remember I mentioned focus issues with the Tamron 28 to 75 last week? I realised it could have been because I'm still on version 2. Okay. Mr. B said, what is the best adapter to use for Nikon lens to Sony? There really, well, I can't recommend any, to be honest. And I've never done it because of the fact of what I've seen in the reviews about it. There's no real autofocus ones. I'm going to talk about a couple of adapters today. Someone in the chat may be able to say what they've used, but most of them are dumb adapters, and I can't remember the name of the Nikon ones to the Sony, but yeah, I think as long as if you're doing manual focus, they're okay. But if they're not, if you're after anything that's got autofocus, there's nothing out there that's going to give you a decent amount of autofocus. John said, hi David, thanks for the A6400 vid you've done. Thank you so much, John. Attilia says, I ended up getting the A9 with the latest trade-in deals. That's fantastic, Attilia. First time shooting Saturday. Woohoo! Hero says the Metabones V is also like $600. Laugh out loud. So MC11 is wonderful for $250. Yeah, that's a massive difference in cost, isn't it? Aldrich said, I have a wedding in March and want to try shooting hybrid shooting with my clients as well. And that's what I'm so excited about this update on the A9. As you know, I use it an awful lot for video. And if I can then use it like I can with the A6400 and use the new tracking to track, say, a bride walking down the aisle or something like that is really going to change things for me. So I'm so excited about it. All right, let's get on to the first story. And let's go here because there's a bit to get through today. I'm going to start with the G Master lens. Let me just have another bit of a frothy. So, unless you're living in a cave or something and you've got no electricity, Sony have announced the G Master lens, the 135. And it looks like it's going to be a really, really nice lens. I've got a couple of things to show you on here. It's around $1,900 US, a fraction less than that at the moment. But it looks like it's going to be a really nice lens. Now, naturally, whenever Sony release something, there's everyone posting the same images again because they all go to the same release, whatever you'd like to call it. But it's quite interesting to have a look at them. I'm sure as people get them in their hands outside of that, that's when I like to watch them, really, because they're not all the same. I get a bit bored of watching every single image looking the same with the same models and the same backgrounds and everything else. It just gives you a guide about what's going on. But the lens itself looks really quite nice. They're saying it's got an aperture ring. I don't know why that's saying 1.4. What is that one though? I don't even know what they're showing there because it's not 1.4. It's a 1.8. I think they're showing the wrong lens there. I'll go into the details of that in a minute. But it looks like they're claiming that it has amazing bokeh. And I did look at a couple of images online because they're saying there's no circular bokeh or it hasn't got the cat's eye. But I don't think that's true. If you look through here, I'm just going to move this around so that you can see. It looks like it gets worse on the edges. So I'm not quite certain why they're claiming that you're not getting the onion or the cat sort of eye bokeh. That, like I said before to you though, that doesn't bother me at all. That certainly would not bother me from buying this lens. But I know some people are very particular about the shape of the bokeh in the background. It does seem to be that obviously the more centered you are, the better it is, the better the shape is. But the second you start to get out to the edges, you're starting to get more of that cat's eye type look. But you don't seem to be getting onion rings in the bokeh though. So that seems to be a really, really good thing. So that part of it works fantastic. Like I said, this wouldn't worry me at all. People have always said when I do stuff and they'll say, oh, you've got, the cat's eye bokeh. And I've said I've never had a client that's complained to me about cat's eye bokeh at all. In some ways, I prefer that than something like the STF because I've found sometimes the STF can look a little bit fake in that everything's so perfect in the bokeh and it just doesn't look real to me sometimes. It looks like it's been superimposed in. So I think overall the bokeh looks like it seems to be fine. If we look at the lens comparison, this is interesting because this was showing the 135 G Master as against the Sigma. But again, this annoys me when they do this because they put the lens caps on. They should take the lens caps off. I don't understand why they show the comparison with the lens caps on. I think that's a bit fake. But anyway, that you can see the lines there where they're showing where it lines up. And I don't know why they just couldn't take the caps off and then do it that way. But anyway. But it does look like it's a little bit smaller, obviously, than the Sigma, but it's a little bit bigger than the Zeiss. But you'd expect that due to the Zeiss being a 2.8. The Sigma is a f1.8 as well as the Sony is a 1.8. So I suppose in a way there's not that much difference in size between the Sigma and the G Master, but there's certainly a difference in weight. If you scroll down here, and I will come back to questions about this in a second, guys. If you scroll down here, this was what Manny showed on his video, because Manny put up a good video explaining the differences between the G Master and also the Sigma and also the 85mm as well. And a lot of the cases, the 85 1.4 and the 135 were almost identical, which was quite interesting. And that's one thing you'd have to do some testing to see if it's really worth it for you if you're shooting with the 85 1.4. But the weight itself is 950 grams, or it's 33.5 ounces. The Sigma is 43.4. So the Sigma is certainly heavier, quite a lot than the actual G Master. So if you're lugging this around all day, that is going to make quite a big difference in using this lens. So again, they've worked fantastic with it. They've done a similar thing to the 24 G Master in the fact that it is nice and light and it's a little bit smaller. Another thing too that I think Manny showed here, or this might be, yeah, this was Manny as well. The close-up capability is 2.3 feet, whereas the Sigma is 2.8 and the Batis is 2.8 as well. So it's by far the closest focusing one. So if you do want to use this as a sort of macro, and that's what I love about the Tamron 28-75, I use that as a makeshift macro all the time. This also is not bad, so it can make do and use for quite good close focusing. In fact, it even has a switch on the lens that lets you do that, so it's not going to be going over the full range all the time, which is a really good feature of these lenses. Again, this is looking at the Batis compared to the Sony, but like I said, you'd expect the baddest to be much smaller due to the fact that it's a 2.8. Does it give the weight? It doesn't give the weight of the baddest there, which is a pity. I'd say I would think the baddest may be a little bit lighter, but I could be wrong. Someone in the live chat may know what the weight is of the baddest, and they can tell me as a comparison. But it's interesting that there is the declicked aperture ring, which is also fantastic. There's also a AM. Let me see if I can bring up another image of this. There is an AF manual focus switch there as well. That's your focus delimiter switch through here. So you can limit the focusing that it's got to hunt through. And also you've got the 2 buttons that you can program to basically replace your C1 and your C2 buttons, I believe, which is quite good. Now, the interesting thing is with this new camera, if you're putting this, say, on the A9, for instance, and even the A7 III, there's no longer anymore to have a dedicated IAF button due to the fact of this new tracking that they've got with the eyes. So you can use these buttons for something else. So that's a fantastic feature there. Remember, that's one great benefit when these new upgrades come out, that you no longer need to have a button held down all the time to get IAF because it's automatic. And I think that's the same in the A7 III. It's definitely the same in the A9, and it's definitely how it works in the A6 400. So all you have to do is half press the shutter button or the back button focus, and IAF is automatically there. If it can see it, it will automatically grab the eye. So there's no need to set those buttons anymore for IAF, unless you're using something like a A7R2, something like that. So it should be work that way with the A7R3, the A7 III, and the A9, and obviously any future cameras, or if you're using it with the A6 400 as well. So that's a great feature. I love the declicking aperture ring. Like I said, if you're working, say, in a church and you're shooting, and then you walk outside, you can smoothly transition the aperture blades, which is really nice as well. So it seems to be like a fantastic lens, and it seems to have an awful lot going for it. I think the Sigma only went to f16 from memory, whereas the Sony goes to f22. I believe that was the case. But it looks like it's a great lens, and I would say it's probably going to be quite hard to get. Let me just fill up my coffee cup. I think if you definitely want it at the beginning, you're going to have to put it on pre-order, because I think it's going to be like the 24 GM. It's going to be really hard to get. So I would suggest, if you are thinking about getting it, to get it straight away and put it on pre-order so that you can get it on, well, as close to day one as possible. I'm not 100% sure that I'll get it yet. I think before I open up the chat on this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get one once they're released, and then use it and see if it meets my needs, because I haven't really shot with a 135 before. I wanted to try and get a Sigma, but I haven't been able to get my hands on one. I want to try it because I love the 35 and the 85mm focal length, and that's the type of shooting that I use all the time. And there's a couple of reasons why I like doing that, because I love interacting. I am very, very good at posing and things like that. I think I'm pretty good at it. And I like to be able to communicate with the bride or the model or whatever that I'm talking with. The further you get away from that person, the less interaction you have with that person. And look, sometimes that can be a good thing if they're nervous and they don't want you near them. But I do like to interact and muck around with them and joke with them and do everything else. And so I like that 85 because I'm still close enough that I can do that. But I do think the 135 would be the ultimate head, say, portrait lens, and that's where this thing would shine. That if you were just trying to get that beautiful compression on the face, and that's what it gives you. The 135 is about the ultimate compression you can get on a face. So if you're doing like headshots and things like that, this may be the ultimate lens that you could use. But I don't do many headshots as such. I'm more dealing with full body, half, like head, shoulders, and sort of head and torso, and things like that. So it may not meet my needs. But that's not to say if I go past the shop wearing these glasses as the disguise so Kerry can't see who I am, if I purchase it and buy it, that I won't get it when it's available in the shop, because I might. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put it on pre-order. Hopefully someone can get it and then they can let me have a go with it. That would be fantastic. We can meet somewhere and do a shoot with it, and then if it meets my needs, then I may order it. So that's probably where I'm going to go with it. It looks like it's incredibly fast focusing. There was some test, I think Manny Otis did it, where he was testing it against the 85 1.4. And I've said all along that the 85 1.4 is quite slow in focus, and it is. And he proved that yesterday when I watched his video about it. If you haven't seen it, watch Manny's review. But this was much faster than the 85 1.4. But having said that, the 85 is a 1.4, whereas this is a 1.8. But it was certainly faster, and definitely faster in low light. And so that could be a great thing. This may be a great lens for me, for instance, for when I do the dance concerts. Things like that where I'm dealing with when they're doing their concerts and it's quite low light. It might be a great lens that I could use for that as well. So that might be another thing that I have to think about, because I was thinking about getting a 70-200 2.8 for that. That's why I wanted the Tamron so much. But if this was really good at that length, that might also be an option for me as well. And then obviously on the A9, it would give me the 20 frames per second if I wanted to capture their jumps. Whereas most of the adapted lenses, or even ones like the Tamron, will only give you around 15. So it's interesting. I have to say that Sony have done an amazing job here. The lens looks like it's really good. If you're after that type of focal length, again, they're giving us what we want, really. And even if you don't want it, the option is still there. It's a lens that Sony didn't have for the FE mount, and that's a fantastic thing. And they just keep bringing out lenses that are amazing. So let's open up the chat anyway, because I'd love to know what you guys think about it. And whether many of you are going to get it. Eli says, favourite UHS-1 SD card for video. I just use, the only ones that I'm using, I can show you what I'm using in the A6500 or the A6400. I'm just using this at the moment. Is it going to focus? It's rated 3. So you can get the HD 4K, video. I'm just using SanDisk. I always use SanDisk cards, so that's a decent card that I'm using. That's a UHS-2 though. I don't think I have any UHS-1 cards. I don't think. I haven't got my other cameras here because they're packed away for the wedding that I'm doing tomorrow. So let me keep scrolling down. Robert said, when the firmware update's coming out again, it's meant to be March for the A9, Robert. And it's April, I think, for the A7 III. And then there's another update to add animal IAF and a couple of other things for the A9 later on. So, yeah, that's how that's working at the moment. Jimmy said, is there a speed booster to use Sony native full-frame lenses in APS-C? Well, speed booster would be a... I'm just trying to think if there is a speed booster. The thing is, Jimmy, someone else may be able to let me know in the chat, because I haven't used that yet on my camera, the MC11, because I haven't got a lens to adapt to it. I'm not sure if there is a speed booster. Someone might let me know if there is or not. I'll be interested to know. Hero says, I'll take the Sigma 135 all day over this one. Really? You'd take the Sigma one over that, Hero? Is that due to cost? Dion said, at f2 and 2.8 is a bit more round. Yeah, I heard that. It sort of did go round, but, I suppose a lot of people are going to be using this at f1.8, aren't they? That's the problem. Hero said, I'll take that Sigma, yep. Aldrich said, me too. He wants the Sigma as well. Is that due to cost, guys? Just curious. Does the background have barrel distortion? The outer bokeh are getting stretched. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. This is what we've got to wait for now, Triple, to see how this goes. We can't tell yet until the real reviews come out a little bit later on. Dion said, videos show that it is much faster at AF, silent, no focus breathing. Yeah, it does seem to be much quicker in autofocus. Yes, and I agree, Dion, it does. It is because they could not find any pictures on the web without the caps. Not sure what that means. Eric said, with the aperture at its widest, there's no iris to make the bokeh round at the edges. Okay, thanks for that. So what you're saying, Eric, is that you'd need a 1.4 lens and then shoot at 1.8. Trev said 1230, man. Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it? Almost 3 pounds. It is quite a lot heavier. Peter said the A7 III, the 85 worked in IAF out to about 8 metres. Didn't go much further, no issues. The 70-200 was great at about 3.5 metres, but effectiveness was reduced to the centre of the frame. Okay. You never told me what the aperture was of that lens, though, Peter. I'm just curious to know. That Peter was talking about using the MC11 with Canon lenses there, guys, if you're not certain what Peter's actually talking about there. Maya said, I wonder if this can get balanced on a gimbal for some nice telephoto. Yes, of course it could. Definitely if you have a gimbal strong enough, like the Moza Air that I had, the version 2, particularly would be fantastic for this. I use that, and you could put a 70-200 on that if you wanted to. It's going to be very tight, though. That's the thing. Remember, I don't think a 135 is a fantastic lens for video. Some may disagree, and it's got its uses for certain things. But I think you're far better off using, say, the 24 GM for video for most things that you'll shoot with. The 85 even has probably more working distance. The 135, due to the fact of how far you'd have to stand back, would be pretty hard to use on a gimbal, but it's certainly possible. Creative Film saying, sup everyone? No, to say the Batis is much lighter, a little more than 600 grams. Wow, the Batis is really light then, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to get that lens when it came out because of the size and the weight of it and the fact that I have the Batis 85. But I thought, wow, the price they were asking for that at 2.8, I couldn't justify it. But I wouldn't be surprised now to see that drop even more now when this is out, because a lot of people are probably not going to buy the Batis anymore and they'll move straight to the Sony FE. The other thing too is, I suppose if you're only dealing, the way I thought was, if I was going to get an f2.8 lens, I might as well just get a 70-200 and I've got that focal length in it. If you bought a G-Master 70-200, you've got the 135 in there. I suppose it's not going to be as light as the Batis. The other thing too, though, the Batis also has stabilisation in it as well. So that is a consideration if you want to have the ultimate sort of hand-holding it to smooth it out. The Batis 135 does have stabilisation, so that is another thing that you'd have to consider as well. Creative Film says, ordering this bad boy tomorrow. Great idea if you want it. Trev said, that would be a ton on a gimbal. Yeah, it would be pretty heavy. You'd need counterweights or a gimbal where the motor is offset. Like I said, Trev, I'm pretty sure that the Moza Air 2 would hold it. That's a beast of a thing. It'll hold a 70-200. But it'd be so heavy to lug around. That would be the problem. Yeah, Trev said something like the Moza Air 2. Yep. Moza sent me that to try, and I used it, and that is incredible. The weight that you can put on the Moza Air 2 is unbelievable. If you were thinking about buying it too, I do have a discount for that too. What else have we got there? Maya said, I've put my Canon 2470 with a Metabones adapter and it worked. Interesting. The Zoom Crane 3 Lab can probably handle it as well. Eric said the 135, no, I think it's f22. Yeah, the Sony is f22. I think it's the Sigma that's f16, Eric. It's the other way around. That Chinese, one guy said Rowan S might do it. I'm sure it probably would. I know the Moza Air can take a little bit more weight than the Rowan S. Now that, when I said too, I've got a discount for the Moza Air, that's not from Moza, that's from a company that just contacted me to say, I saw your review of the Moza Air 2. If people buy it through us, you get a discount. So I'm not sponsored by Moza Air, guys, at all. It's just I love their Moza Air Cross. I love that gimbal. Bought them all with my own money, though. Philip said, renting the Tamron 28-75, love it so much currently, can't wait to use it in Jamaica. I know, Philip, that's amazing. I'll be using that nearly all the day tomorrow on one camera. It's incredible. I adore that lens. Trev said this lens is close to 1 pound heavier than the Canon. Dion says, I will be getting it. I shoot 100 to 170 as portraits, so this should go well with the STF. Eric said, the 135mm focal length on a gimbal will result in some serious rolling shutter. Yeah, perhaps. It'll be interesting to see. Creative Film says, no, it won't. Balance right, will be stable. Roderick said, Batis 135, 614 grams or 1.35 pounds. So it is quite considerably lighter. I think if I was going to be doing gimbal work, I'd be using the Batis. Due to the fact of that weight difference, it's quite substantial. Mark said, I own the 135 Sigma and don't use it as much, although the results are great. The distance to the talent is too far in a studio. Yeah, and this is the thing I'm thinking, Mark. I don't know if it will fit the way that I shoot. I may be better to get and I'm still thinking probably I'll get the 24 first, due to the fact that that would be probably more beneficial to me, due to the fact that I can put that on the gimbal, and it's a nice focal length to include more surroundings around me. I am starting to shoot with more and more surroundings around me. I do like to shoot the environment, so having that, the 24mm may be a better buy for me than the 35 will, but I think I'm going to wait and just see and then get one or the other. Mark said we need a 105 Sony, and that's the other one that interests me. I'd love to try the 105 f1.4. I would seriously love to try that. If anyone has got, a Canon version, I've got the adapter, the Sony version, get in touch with me and we could meet somewhere and we can do a shoot together. Philip also said, would love to see the 35 1.8. And look, there's so many people after that lens. I know that. Sony really should consider that lens because they have the 85 1.8 and then they also should, say, make the duo of the 35 because remember, there's no better combination than the 35 and then the 85. If they want to sell, and remember the A7 III is classified as their entry-level camera, they would sell a bucket load of 35 1.8s, just like they sell a bucket load of 85s. I should have said hotcakes just to upset camera conspiracies. He put a funny video up the other day talking about hotcakes, and I put a comment down there saying, that's what I say, and I laughed. It was quite funny. Eric said, I have the 70 to 200 and never use the 70 to 100 range. Only makes sense to switch to the 135. Okay. Creative Film says, Eric will go nice with my 28, 55 and 85. Dan said, sorry mate, I'm late. Hope you have used the Batis before at all. No, not the 135 though, but I do have the 85 Batis. I'm sure it's a really nice lens though. 42 Pros, but I think Jason Vong said that the 135 GM was sharper than the Batis though, and he showed an example of that. I really don't care about that. I mean, like I said, my clients they're not going to complain if I shoot a 135 with the Batis or the Sony 135. They're just going to all they'll care about is if it's a nice result. The 135 Batis is still going to be sharp enough. 42 Pro says, I use the SanDisk Extreme Pro 95s, read 95 megabits write cards. Just bought two more 128 gigs for $64. They are on sale tonight at Amazon. Yeah, I noticed that too, that they were on sale, guys. If you want to get cards, let me just bring that up because I'll show you. There's a lot of them because it might be of interest to you. Let me see if I can bring this up just to show you. Because I saw it yesterday, I think. There you go. It's saying today only at Amazon. Big sales on select memory and storage cards. So there's a lot there that are up for sale. I use this one a lot too, this one here. I've got a few of those in my in the A9 as the second card, I think, because they're only writing to JPEG on that card. So that's fine. So yeah, that's the one I'm using on the... That's the card I'm using on my A7 III as the backup card because that's just JPEG, and also on the A9 it's also JPEG, so I'm using them there, and they're only $31 for the 128. That's incredible. Great buy. So thanks for mentioning that. Who was that mentioned that? 42 Pros mentioned that, so thanks, mate. Creative Film says it's not £3, it's only £2. Is that weight difference? Peter says lens was with the Sigma Art 1.4. Okay, yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that you said the 85 still worked though, so that's really interesting. Like I said, I'm dying to try the Canon 85 1.2. Johnson City Aerial Photography said the Batis isn't covered by Sony Pro support. Yeah, that's true. Zaddy says, got a steal off Adorama, 28 to 75 for 680 new. Wow, that's fantastic. Hero says the A6 400 will have animal. Yes, it will have animal AF. That's coming in a future update, so I'm not sure when. Johnson City says that reported 100 1.4. Not sure what that means. Steve said, David, try using the A6 400 on these videos instead of the A7R. Yeah, it's still hunting, isn't it? I don't know why. Yeah, I should try it. I don't know why. I should go back to the A6 500 or something. But I notice it's struggling a little bit, which is annoying. I don't know why it's hunting. I probably should do manual focus, but the problem is I move in and out. That's the issue. They will sell like brick walls, not hotcakes. I love it. Absolutely for absolutely for the cost of performance, you get the Sigma is just about the same. Trev said 10 terabyte hard disk for $150. I know it's unbelievable the price of storage nowadays. Hate the bokeh on the 135 GM. Interesting. Creative Film said looks better than the competition. Langston said, laugh out loud, my family just got an earful of David Oastler. I was casting audio to the whole house. They'll be saying, who is this guy? Anyway, let's go to the next story. Let me come back to here. Now, this is interesting. I'd love to know in the chat whether you think this is worthwhile or not. Sony announced this new wireless remote commander. It's the RMT P1BT. It's $80 though, which is interesting. So it's not cheap. You can only notify when available at this stage. But this is what it looks like. Apparently it has lights and stuff like that that will show if you focusing and things like that. It also has a focus lock that you can lock. You can also zoom if you have lenses that have the zooming capability like the 18 to 105. You can change between movie and stills, stuff like that. And it's also got a C1 button there as well, I noticed, and also AF on. But it's Bluetooth. It's saying it's in here that precise button operation with clear tactile feedback. It's professional reliability. I think they're saying that it'll work in very, very cold conditions and things like that. It's saying down here that it works with the camera's built-in Bluetooth receiver, so no wire connection or added-on receiver is required. Comprehensive control. It's just saying focus buttons for precise control, even subtle focus changes. That could be interesting. A lock switch that prevents accidental operation during transport, movie recording, start-stop. So the lock switch is only for transporting. Start, stop, and power digital zoom. There are also 2 custom buttons that mirror the functions of the C1 and AF1 button. I mean, I don't know whether... I'm going to open this up to the chat in a minute, whether to see if any of you guys think this is worthwhile. But, I mean, I'd probably just use my mobile phone if I wanted to do this. But... let me know. I just think someone just gave a donation too that I need to. Long Rider, thank you so much, mate. Let me just show that just so that people see that you've donated to me. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. But I'm not sure. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Is it something you think you would buy for $80 US? Or is it something where you'd just buy one that's wired in, or you would use something like your mobile phone for this or not? And I'd love to know what you think, but it's not cheap. This is the thing with this. It's not cheap at all. I bought the wired Sony remote control because I was intending to use that when I was shooting movies and things like that, and it's never come out of my bag. I think if I was going to do any of this sort of stuff, I would just use it wirelessly through my mobile. But let me just quickly open this up because I'm curious to know whether you think it's any good. So let me know in the chat, guys, whether you think it's actually any good or not. Not sure what the market is for this device. You can't see what you're adjusting on the device. Yeah, and see, this is the problem. If you're dealing with it where you're doing this from a long way away, well, then you can't see it anyway. This is why I'm saying I don't really see why you just wouldn't have it wired, because you're going to have to be close enough to see where you're zooming in or whatever you're doing anyway. And like I said, it may be good for sport shooters, I suppose, if you had the range, but I don't know how far this Bluetooth range is going to go anyway. Like I said, I just use my phone, and then you can see exactly what's happening, stuff like that. So, it's interesting. Thank you, Long Rider, for the donation. Ariel City Photography said, Mark had asked about the 105, David, and I just pointed out about the rumoured Sony 100. Oh, where did that go to? The rumoured Sony 100 f1. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there is a rumour that Sony are going to release a 100 1.4G master lens. That's been a rumour around that's for a little while now, so that could be a really interesting one. Tim said, I've got a $50 Sony accessory gift card and would get the new remote as it looks good. Probably won't be out before my card expires, though. Yeah, it may be a while. They're not even saying yet when that's going to be. Langston said, also respectfully, BT is not what I would call professional. It falls apart real quick. Yeah, Bluetooth, exactly, it does. I just think it's way overpriced for what it is. I really do, and I wouldn't be buying it, but some people may find in here, and this is why I'm interested to see if some of you think that it's worthwhile. Long Ride put his fingers up for saying the donation. Thanks, mate. Langston said, I say this having done more than a dozen engineering demos where people demand Bluetooth, and we had to do smoke and mirrors to make it work in a congested radio environment. Yep. Trevor said there that as a studio shutter remote, it would be nice. Not for $79. Yeah, I know. You're right, and that should probably be around $30 to $40. Very, very expensive for what they're asking for this device. I agree with that totally. Love it, AF on button is helpful. Altric says, I'll wait for the new app that will drop with the firmware. Yep. Mobile phones do this. Yes, that's what Dan said. And that's what I think. You're far better off just to use a mobile phone. Shine says, C1 can be custom for the IAF. But remember, you don't need that anymore if you're dealing with the new cameras anyway, because it's automatic when you focus. It will automatically grab the eye. Eric said, Sony just needs to make a usable app. Exactly, and I so wish they would. Why Sony ever took the focusing out of those apps drives me nuts. There's no excuse for what Sony have done with those apps. I can use my A7 III. I should do that, actually. Probably connect it. I might be able to then get in focus, but I can use the A7 III app, and I can rack focus with it, and that's unbelievable. Like, why on earth they took that out, I don't know. Can anyone explain why that's gone? I can't think of any reason why Sony should have taken that out. I know it may be because of Play Memories apps, but surely they could release a new app that can incorporate like that, how they have with the new time-lapse app in the A6400. There must be ways of doing that. The GH5 does it amazingly. Other cameras do. To have the ability to tap on focus would be brilliant. I don't know why they don't let you do it. And perhaps now, because they've released that wireless remote commander, they're not going to give it to us. Jimmy says, the A6400 allows to start the video recording from the cell phone. Yep. Langston says it must serve some niche. Why make it otherwise? I just wonder what the niche is. I don't know what the niche is either. Hero says the Sigma 105 is beautiful. Yeah, I'm dying to try that, Hero. I really am. Dion said maybe the remote is good for night shots where you don't want the light from the phone to stuff up the shots. Yeah, perhaps, Dion, but I'd just probably use a wireless one. That's what I got that one for. When I have done night star shots, I've just used it for that. So, I don't know, $80, and that, remember, that's going to be $100 Australian. It's crazy. John said I would use it for macro. Yeah, and that's one good point. That may be the only position where you could obviously change the focus very, very gradually. That's one thing they've said that may be useful for. But like I said, I'm sure if they had touch focus on the iPhone app, you could do that too. Langston said, hi, Sony. Call me, we'll get that app into a fantastic shape. Langston said there's no good reasons besides making users annoying. I know, I don't understand that either. Why on earth don't they do focus? Dion said the OS in the 3 series is different than before, so they do not work. Yeah, I understand that, Dion, but that should have been fixed by now. There's no excuse, really. Shane said 100 1.4 GM will be insane. It would be. Shooting at that focal length and 1.4 would be incredible. That's why I'm interested in the 105. Plus, you don't have to get so far back either with that. Langston says, yeah, but then that's just super horrible planning not to have the app that you can port to the next internal company OS. Yeah, and I agree with you, Langston. That should have been done. It's so useful, and I used to love when I had the GH5, I used to love using my phone, and then I'd just be racking focus to wherever it wanted to go, and it would rack smooth focus. That will work on all the Panasonics. It works with my, like I said, the A7R2. There's no excuse. Sony should have fixed that by now. I don't know why they haven't. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Now, if you like Voigtlander, this is interesting because Voigtlander have got an SR5 out. And I do love Voigtlander lenses. If you were shooting manual focus, this would be a gorgeous lens. It's a 51.2. There's no pricing or anything yet because it's obviously hasn't been announced yet. They're saying it was meant to be announced soon, within hours, but I haven't heard if it's been announced. And this was posted a couple of days ago, so not sure what's happened there. But it will be a beautiful lens, 1.2 aperture, stunning for video work if you like to manually pull focus. Made like the classic lenses of years ago. They really do feel like they're tanks, these lenses. And this could be a lovely one if you're solely into manual focusing and you want a 51.2. It could be a great lens to have. That's really all I want to talk about with that at this stage, just that it's a rumor to be announced. I'm not going to go to the chat yet. We'll do a couple more before we move over. This was another thing announced as well. Sony are announcing new circular polarizing filters. They're not saying when they're going to... Oh, yeah, they are. They're saying they're going to ship in May. According to this, they're going to ship in May 2019. But they already have some circular polarizers, but they're saying this is going to be much better than what the previous ones were. It's going to preserve image quality and resolution about twice as effectively as Sony's existing circular polarizer, so that's a fantastic thing. Now they're adding the 49mm, the 55, 62, 67, 72, 77 and 82. Now the price roughly is, if you want the lowest, smallest one, which is 49, they're $100 US. If you want to go to the 82 model, they're $229.99. So you know that, so they're not cheap. But certainly look like they're going to be very, very good. Now, circular polarizers are really great if you want to sort of get that glare. And look, I've got one, but I always forget to put it on. I'm just being honest with you. They are really nice if you want to get rid of glare, like in water and stuff like that. And it's also great if you're doing landscape type work where you want to get that sheen, that shine that's on the foliage, and obviously make the skies a lot bluer. So they really do have an advantage if you want to use them. If you're shooting through glass, it can be interesting. Now, if you want to get the reflections in the glass, you don't use a circular polarizer. But if you do want to go through the glass, you can use a circular polarizer to get rid of that reflection. So they're certainly handy to have. I've got a couple, but I haven't used them in years. I just use NDs, and I just very, very rarely, like I said, I'm not really a landscape photographer, so I don't tend to put them on. And I just, if I need to do stuff, I just really do it in post. But they are very, very handy. I know landscape photographers will swear by them. You know, if you're doing animal photography and stuff like that, they certainly are useful. So if you were thinking about getting them, it may be interesting to give them a go. You're obviously going to have to compare prices to what others are out there, but they're saying that it is excellent resolution, but I haven't seen them or used one yet. But that is now going to be available in May. Next story, just because I'm going through a few of these. before we go to the next ones. We've got this one, which is interesting. This is a Tech Art adapter that's being released that will go from Sony E mount to Nikon Z mount. Now, I think, are they saying this? It's autofocus as well, which is really bizarre. I didn't think they'd have one that fast. It's saying the image on top shows you the new Sony E to Nikon Z mount autofocus adapter. And I thought, wow, it looks like it will also, there is your electronic contacts there. So whether it takes over all of your all of your information from your lens, your EXIF data, it'll be interesting to know. But I wouldn't count on this working very, very fast initially. It's going to be interesting to see how this works in real life. But again, your adapters will be announced. They're going to have more things that will you'll be able to use other lenses on other cameras. But it'll be interesting to see if it's possible to go the opposite way around, say going from the Nikon Z to the Nikon to the Sony mount. So these are interesting things. Particularly, I'd love to say get some of the new Canon glass onto, the R glass onto my Sony camera. I'd love to have a go at that. Whether that is possible, I'm not sure due to the mount size difference. But if you can go one way, I'm hoping you can go the other. But interesting. Can't wait to see if that works. I mean, certainly the more options that you have out there, the better it will be. It certainly can mean that you don't have to stick with one system as well, which is fantastic too. Let me just go over to the chat because I want to answer a few things before we move on. Where were we? Florio says, hello from Long Island, New York, where it's cold as balls. David, send over some of your sunshine. We know that the coffee is Irish mist. Tomorrow we're flying to the Arnold Classic, Columbus, Ohio. Fantastic, you'll have a ball. Hard says, David, do you think manual focus lenses in the mirrorless market are needed at all? Since all these companies are building up better AF systems, in my opinion, there is no excuse for launching a manual lens. Well, you know what? I used to think videographers still like to manual focus hard. So yes, definitely if you're a videographer, because they like to be in control and they like to be able to rack focus, and that's the difference. Fly-by-wire is very hard to rack focus, and that's one of the issues that you have with fly-by-wire, particularly Sony. If you move fast, it changes how much you can rack between two objects and 2 points. So that can be an issue. So if you're really doing really intricate high-end video work, you're still going to be using manual focus lenses. So yes, but for the average user, no. The average user now, I never touch manual focus now, apart from when I'm doing manual macro work. Apart from that, I won't be doing it at all. I use the automatic focus now, the AF, and particularly with the A7 III and the A9 now, and the A6-400, the AF on those cameras now is outstanding, and the A9 is going to take it to another level. So, yeah, I don't think I ever need to use manual focusing anymore, except for things like I'm saying for macro and stuff like that. Gerald's here. G'day, Gerald. Langston said, depends on if they think their mirrorless cameras will wind up in a sign land. Yep, and that's the thing it does. Love them on my drone. I can't remember what that... Oh, you're talking about circular polarizers. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I have used it on my drone. Florio said, I will bring my A7 III to the Arnold Classic, and that's going to be a great camera to use there. Haas said... David, interesting how it focuses on the chair as soon as you look away. Yeah, I know. But I suppose the thing is, this is the, and I've just been trying the full frame with the A7R2, but I suppose face detection and everything is just nowhere near as good on that as what it will be, say, on the A7 III or the A6500 that I was using previously. But yeah, it is interesting. So it definitely rocks back and forth. That's about it. So let's go to the next one. I mean, I am sitting almost in the same spot, so I probably should just put it on manual focus. Now, this is quite interesting, and I just wanted to share this just as general Sony news, that Sony are hiring engineers, and it's to help strengthen their image sensor business. It's got reports thereafter they're planning to deploy 40% of its new engineer hires in Japan at its chipset business, which is also including the manufacturers of imaging sensors. The company is hoping to grow the division. So what they're trying to do, they're actually saying that they aim to do an investment of 5.4 billion in its image sensor business over the next 3 years. And obviously they're adding workers to help do that, engineers. It seems to be that Sony are really kicking goals with their sensor business. And it was a very smart move separating all of these business, because if anything did ever go bad, it's totally separate. And that's a very smart move by what Sony have done there. But clearly, Sony are leading in the sensor business. There's nothing like what Sony are producing in. And remember, they're the only manufacturer out there that makes phones, and they make cameras as well. Like, it's incredible. I'm going to show you a new couple of things they're doing in a minute with phones. But, it's amazing what they're actually doing, and it's just fantastic. Now, I do have to move on reasonably fast, guys, because I have to leave in 30 minutes to go to the wedding. I'm leaving tonight. Because it's such a big drive. So let me check on to the next story, and then I'll open it up to questions after we finish this. This is going to be fairly quick. Light and Sony have teamed up. This is also really exciting as well for Sony. And I thought that I'd just share this because Light have a really interesting concept where they have multiple cameras all around, and you can do things like change the focus later on and do all these other things. Well, Sony have teamed up with Light to make the next generation of multi-camera smartphones. So this could be also an amazing thing that's going to happen in the future. So stay tuned for that. I really only wanted to show that at this stage. I thought Light had disappeared, but it looks like they're going to come back, particularly if they've teamed up with someone like Sony. Let me show you this too before I show you that. Also, Sony have just announced a new mobile phone that have come. Now, I wanted to mention this because this is fascinating. This new phone that's come out with a 21:9 display, it's the Xperia 1. Wow, some of the things that Sony have added on this. Now, look, it's not really, how come that doesn't switch sometimes? Oh, there we go. It's not like the folding phones that have come out from, that Samsung have announced, and Huey, or whatever, however that's pronounced as well. It's not like those, so they're sticking with a traditional phone at this stage. But what they've added on this phone is pretty incredible, because if you look at it, what they've done is it's using a 2.6 image sensor, and it's got a fast 1.6 lens with OIS and dual pixel autofocus. I think Kerry's trying to ring me. It's got dual pixel autofocus. There is also a tele module, so it's got 3 cameras on this phone. But the incredible thing is, have a look at this. This is where I went, wow. When I saw this, it was amazing because it's got eye autofocus. It's the first phone that I've seen that actually has eye autofocus. So they've grabbed the new eye autofocus that is used in the A6 400, and they've implemented it into a phone for the first time, which tracks the human subject in the frame. Has been ported from the Sony standalone cameras, and is also capable of recording raw image files. It does 4K HDR footage in 21:9 cinema aspect ratio, and it's got a new Cinema Pro app, and it will do 24 frames per second recording, more like cinema look. But what I also noticed was that it's got Dolby sound, but I did read somewhere that it's actually got the Venice color system on this phone as well. So they really have made this phone high-ended. It's 64 gigabyte or 120 gigabyte internal storage, and you can expand up to 512 gigabyte. It's using the Android OS. But wow, IAF on a phone. Like I said, it's the first time I've seen it. When I saw that being demonstrated, I thought that is incredible. It's fantastic. So that's that one. And then the last story is this, before I quickly open up to a few questions, because like I said, I've got to get ready to go. Also, a new Speedmaster is announced. Now, this is also a 50mm, but it's another 0.95 lens. It's the version 3 of this lens has been announced. It's a macro. Oh no, I think the other the Artesian's a macro. This is just a 50 0.95 lens. Again, though, it's 0.95 to f/16. It's scheduled for release in April 2019, and I think that's 98,000 yen. They're saying, but it will also be manual focus as well. But we're certainly getting a lot of different lenses announced all of a sudden, and we really are now being spoilt with what's out there, and it's absolutely fantastic. All right, so let's open up to questions quickly. Let's go through that, and we'll see what happens, what people are saying. So fire away, guys, if you want to ask any questions. Like I said, I can't stay long. We'll do, say, 5 minutes or so, 6 minutes. Florio said, I always wanted to ask, at the weddings you do shoot both stills and video at the same time. How do you do that? I can only do one or the other. It takes a lot of practice, Florio. It took me a long time to work out how to do it. I am going to eventually film that and let people see how it's done, because I think it might be a fantastic thing to share. That may go in the in my paid channel, though. I'm not sure where I'll put that. I might do a little bit on here for you guys. And then the other parts may go on Patreon. I'm not sure, but I do definitely want to show that somewhere along the line. But it did take an awful lot of practice, and I'm holding 2 cameras at the same time. You have to learn about audio, which took a long time to get that down pat. Things like that, it's a big expense, but it certainly has made my business grow. And I've got better and better at it, which is fantastic. But I certainly would like to discuss that with you guys. Langston said, "Damn, I'm not that level of smart engineer for a Sony job." Oh, I see what you're saying. Is pre-focus off? I should check that. I think it is, John, because I usually always turn that off. David, not to mention the gaming consoles. Exactly. Sony really are covered everywhere. Like, I know the Angry Photographer always goes on about Sony, they're a PlayStation company. I think it's a great thing that Sony have all this other money in other areas. The companies that are going to struggle are the ones that don't have that. If you've got nothing but cameras, you could seriously be in trouble. Altrix saying, have a great wedding. Langston said, Sony getting into computational AI for photography. Yep, that's the next generation, Langston. It's definitely going to come. Steve said, not everyone can afford expensive lenses. Manual lenses are a cheap way of getting into astro. Exactly. Yeah, and astro is a great way of doing it too. Mark said, this Xperia could also have the capability of tracking animal IAF. Probably. Triple said, do you still have any use for your 18 to 105s? Thinking, no, I sold it yesterday. I sold my A6 300 and I also sold my 18 to 105 yesterday because I never use them. I'm just going to use the full frame lenses that I've got. I'm not going to sell the 24 because I love that 35mm focal length. And I'm also not going to sell, obviously, the 18 to 35. The 10 to 18 because that's going to be a great vlogging lens. So I'm going to keep that. But they're the only 2 APS-C lenses that I've got now is the 24 1.8 and the 10 to 18. But I have sold the 18 to 105. David said, hey David, what did you get for what would you get, the 135 or the 24? I still don't know, David. I'm leaning more to the 24. But I'll have to work that out at a later date. Dion said, should talk about Sony Sciences scenes, scenesony.com, sorry, taking after you in marketing. Oh. Hart says, Steve Wag, yes, that would be a good point regarding astrophoto. Gerald says, as a fellow A9 owner, any word on when in March we'll be getting that version? No, there isn't yet, Gerald. I'm waiting as much as you are. Can't wait for it, to be honest. I really am hanging out for it. Will said, has been doing big things for a long time. Beta anybody? I'm not sure what that means. Mark says, shout out to Northrop doing his latest video about the National Geographic picture. Haven't seen that. Will said, Sony. Hart said, David, what was the camera where you could edit photos on it? Yeah, that was the Zeiss one. Yeah, and I don't know, I think it's been released or it's been announced. I haven't heard anything about it since. It might be dead on arrival. I'm not sure. John said, saving money but not having to put autofocus in a lens allows companies to put money into better glass and metal housings, etc. Yeah, like the Void lenses are stunning lenses, guys. They really are stunning. Fantastic. Gerald said, get the 24 GM, you won't regret it. Just used it with my A9 in video on the cruise and it worked great. I probably would have more use of the 24 than the 135 if I'm talking about my overall photography, Gerald. It's just that occasionally the 135 may be nice, but yeah, I'm just thinking about it at this stage. I'll make a decision soon. Haas says, how can we have 100 views and but a handful of comments? Langston said, stage fright. Yeah, please guys, if you are watching, join in the conversation. I love to have the conversation with you guys. And please, if you can too, a thumbs up. I really would appreciate it, particularly as I'm not sponsored by anyone. It really helps the channel. Raymond said, I've always wondered if a lens has a built-in stabilizer and the body has IBIS, do they work together? Yes. You get 5 stops. So in other words, you get 5 axis, not 5 stops. You get 5 axis stabilization if you have a lens that's got stabilization. So it will work together and it gives you better stabilization. Yes. Plus, if you use something like the A6400 and you use a stabilized lens, at least the lens is stabilized. Haas says, Langston, you're always funny, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Will said, sorry, David, my comment was broken up. I meant to say Sony has been doing big things for a long time. Oh, yes, remember Beta, yes, Betamax. Yeah, they have. And they, you know, at Sony have been around for so long. And it really is, they're fantastic. And like I said, I think having PlayStation and all these other things is an amazing thing. It's only people that hate Sony carry on about things like that Sony make PlayStation. Big deal. I think that's a fantastic thing. I'm rapt that they have a sensor division. I'm rapt that they make mobile phones. That's all helps us get better and get other things. So they're just Sony haters. So don't carry on with that too. I haven't mentioned the Facebook group, guys. Make sure, I'm just going to put it in here because I haven't got time. Please join us at the Photography and Videography School. I've just posted that in the comments down the bottom. You have to put the and like that to join us. It's a site particularly for you guys. Yeah, that focus is really hunting. I'll have to change that. So please join that. It's a great place, and it's nearly 4,000 people now, so it's growing like crazy, and it's a direct reflection of this YouTube channel. So please join us on there. Casper saying Sony number 1. Totally agree, Casper. Don't forget to next week on Wednesday my time. Tuesday my time, sorry. The photo and video behind the photo show is on with Aaron. That'll be on Aaron's channel next week. So please join us there to watch that as well. That seems to be a great program now. That's going to grow certainly over the next few months as well. Justin said, if you have the option of the Tamron 17 to 28, what would be the benefit of the 24mm aside from the aperture? Well, you're always going to get a better result with that G-Master lens, but that's another thing that I'm waiting on to see how that works as well, Justin. So if that lens is everything I need, I may just get the 17 to 28 2.8 and just live with that and possibly sell the 16 to 35 f4 Sony I have. So I may think about doing that if the Tamron is as good. If that 17 to 28 is as good as the 28 to 75, I may just get that. But I'm waiting at this stage to see what happens. By the way, I shoot Nikon. Nothing wrong with that, Will, at all. There's nothing wrong with Nikon at all. Anthony said, I was in the previous live stream before a week ago. Nice video, mate. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. Really appreciate that. G-Master. I love Casper. He's determined to get me a G-Master. If I eventually buy one, I'm not sure what he's going to say. All right, guys, I better go because I better get ready for this shoot. I've got to pack up my case still. I'm going to be in trouble. So please, if you haven't subscribed, I really would appreciate you subscribing. A thumbs up would also be really appreciated as well. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by anyone, and that's one great way I can get my videos out there. Apart from that, I'll see you all in the next video. I think I'm going to try very, very soon to use the A6400 and the 28 to 75. I've had a lot of people asking me to review that, so I may do that too. Apart from that, I'll see you all in the next video, guys. Bye for now.